Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio, and welcome to Luthiers Question Time, episode 68. I can't believe we are already that far in to this insanity, but you know what? It is what it is, and it is fun. It is fun. Okay, so, well, we've got Franz Truter, Robert R. Spike's Frugal Luthier Shop. Spike's other hobby is changing his YouTube username. Jeff's Guitars, Tahoe, Mike Anthony, Cunkliffe, Ben Timon, Tutem Carmen, Rab Knox, a bunch of people. Jay is Tracking Guitars, The Big Unit, hey y'all, hey all y'all. I wish I could do that justice in the correct accent, but I just end up sounding weird. I'm not good at accents. Anyway, Big Unit, I think we fixed the t-shirts for you. Your name is not just a name, and you need a larger GGBO t-shirt than we actually had listed, so I think that's been done. If not, let me know. Wolford Guitars is in, says hi folk. Leon says he won't be with us this evening. You all have fun, we absolutely will, I am sure. Lisa says, anyone know why it says 13 to 18, but there are only 5 participants listed? I think that is 13 people who said to YouTube, remind me that it's happening. But there we go. Apparently most were watching Spike's live chat at that point. Anyhow, we're all good. SC Guitars is in moderating, as is, I think, Creverai as well. Okay, so JS Tracking Guitars is in with the first super chat. Super chats are the way to guarantee that I answer the queries, the questions, the comments, or at the very least, notice what you have to say and then desperately avoid it while saying, I don't want to answer that horrible question. Would you rather have a hand plane or a chisel? I'd rather have a chisel plane. There we go. Okay, anyhow, Jay is in and says, good afternoon, Ben. You didn't clarify in your GGBO update video if we are allowed 1 vote for each category or 1 vote total. If you are competing in a category, then you are only allowed 1 vote. If you are competing in a category, i.e. scratch build, for example, and you also enter the community build. I had the word CO, the letter CO in my head, and I was just kept on going, the complication build. We are not asking you to do that. Then essentially you could take your free vote in the complication build and vote for yourself twice, and that would be unfair. If you, however, have a scratch build and a kit build going, one would assume that you would vote for yourself in one of each of those categories, and therefore that would be fine. But yes, if you are joining in as a competitor, and you have a competitor and a community build, you will only have the opportunity to vote once. And yeah, that's the way it goes. I've got a dodgy HDMI cable and it's flickering in the corner of my eye and annoying me. Anywho, there we go. Now, Marcin of the Nuclear Village says, hi Ben, how are you, Marcin? I'm really good, actually. I'm really good. I'm a little bit better rested than last week. Just went for a nice walk with a few of the kids and the dogs and stuff and nonsense. And that is one of the joys of living in this area, is there are all sorts of beautiful gardens and stately homes and pretty places and things. You might have heard that there was a major, for the UK, storm a couple of weeks back now. And on one of the roads, you've got a tree that's fallen down on the hill, and the whole tree is over the whole road like a bridge. And we're all going, oh, all right. Seems safe enough, let's go. Anyhow, look at that. First digression. E.R. Webster is in the house. Luthier builds, sorry. Get Enlightened says, hello. Get Enlightened, I do not recognize your name. Almost certainly my fault. Anyhow, everybody, I am here to answer your questions. And if you have a question, if you have a query, a comment on GGBO or guitar building in general, on, I don't know, my general demeanor and whatever, ask away. And we will check it out. Okay. Now, Tornelli Guitar says, just wanted to say thanks for the changes to GGBO. It's an absolute pleasure. So many people... Oh, Jake Rich is telling me there's some interference in my audio. There really should not be. Unless it's my ass. And I did actually, with my ass, manage to mute and then unmute my my audio a few weeks ago. I'm going to stop fiddling with the wires. Let me know how that goes. Other than that, it's potentially just the fact that it's sitting here next to my neck and I'm moving. That must be it. If that's it, let me know. Okay. Hugh McKay says, phone signal sucks on a train in the middle of the Scottish Highlands. Who knew? I am currently listening to an Ian Banks book called Raw Spirit, where he drives around Scotland partaking in all the whiskey imaginable. It is being read by a Scot, and I find myself saying, "Och," the other day, in all seriousness, because I've been imbibing that. I am very, very easily led. Who knew? Okay, now there was a question. I thought I started to answer something, then completely forgot about it. Compilation builds, yes. Complication builds. Oh yes, it was about GGBO. So many people, especially in this space, i.e. the YouTube space, they find it very difficult to admit that they were wrong. They find it very difficult to listen to people and to act and react. And frankly, I find it the most important thing about having an audience and having people interested in what you're doing is being able to say, okay, they think I messed up here. And in that case, in this case, I absolutely did. I saw Chris's video, King Bespoke Creations, a bit later than I would have liked, really. I saw it on Friday at lunchtime, and I sent him a DM, spoke to him. I read through all of the comments of some very angry people, which was quite amusing. I mean, not that they were angry, it was that they hadn't got in touch with me and told me how angry they were. Let's put it that way. Anyway, so I phoned, I got in touch with Chris. We ended up on an hour-long conversation. We spoke through everything. And in that conversation, I realized that actually the public were not required. The public were absolutely not required. And the other realization was that, so for the voting point of view, I was so hung up on making the voting fair and utterly, or basically something that couldn't be cheated by using the public, i.e. charging them money to make sure that they didn't cheat and, etc. But I didn't realize that we didn't need them in the slightest. And we could use the answer that was there from last year, which was the Guitar Builder's Choice, the Builder's Choice Awards. And it just really is. Who's better to judge a competition than A, the people in it, but B, people who know what they're looking at. It's not Nana and Grandad and stepmom and cousins and all of that saying, "Oh, come and vote for me. I'm in this competition." It's not them. It's your peers, and I'm so super excited about that. And then the final thing was I'm fairly competitive. You might say, and the fact that there are people out there who just want to build along and don't give a rat's ass about the competition side of things blew my mind. There we go. So, new category. I'm very tempted. I'm very, very tempted to add one sneaky little bit of category. It could be fun to see some cigar box guitars being built this year as well. What do you think of that? Anyway, Luther for Builds came in with a super chat, said, "Is there a link for GGBO shirts? I can't find it." You should have been, I'm assuming that you are entered, and I haven't looked through everybody's names, and the names are real names, not tags, for that matter. You will be sent when you download the logo packs and all of that sort of stuff, then you should have also been given a a Word document that has a link to where the t-shirts are for your particular category. Now, we are going to be resending all of that out again because it turns out the logos that we sent were a little bit small and piddly and not quite good enough. So that'll be coming out soon. Okay, now we're here. Whew. Mark Jennings says, "Hey Ben, have a good stream." Thanks very much, Mark. I absolutely will. I haven't had a coffee in a while, so I might flag at some point, but yeah, it's all good. France Ruth has come in. "Evening, Ben. Please explain the difference between single or double action truss rod and where to use them. Thanks. Conflicted. Asking for a friend." Okay, so single action will only move one way. It's in the name. Essentially, your strings will be pushing this way. Your truss rod will be pulling backwards against the strings. Now, if your neck has an issue and the neck is wanting to pull too far forward, or the other way, or twisting, or wow, I'm so wrong. Basically, the dual action truss rod allows you to cater for issues that are unforeseen, and it gives you both ways and should always be used. I don't think that in this day and age, I don't think that there is any excuse for using a single action truss rod at all. There's just no need for it, short of being slavishly traditional. And that's no fun now, is it? Or is it? I don't know. Okay, the big unit says, "On Boba Fett, I saw you use penetrating oil over the ox blood stain. You also sell finishing oil. What's the difference and proper use of each?" Okay, so you've got the penetrating oil, then the high build oil, and both of those are guitar finishing oils. They just act a little bit differently. Essentially, the high build finishing oil has far more solids and costs us a lot more to make, actually. But it builds up more. So essentially, I used the penetrating oil, I flooded it as much as humanly possible, dried it down, and then immediately went with the high build finishing oil after that to build up a bit more. Now, I could have waited. I could have done with adding another few coats than I did. I then went and made a mistake. Everything was nice and fresh, and I used a Renaissance wax, forgetting that Renaissance wax actually is white spirit based, i.e. that's the liquid that you mix the microcrystalline wax into, and that ate some of the finish and pulled some of the stain away. So I then finally went on to a traditional hard wax with resins in it, etc., and that was it. So, yeah, that's it. Now, we also sell a guitar finishing lacquer, water-based rub-on varnish, that sort of stuff. That is, it doesn't affect the tonality of the color. It doesn't affect the color very much, whereas oil adds an amberness to it as you build it up. But it also doesn't penetrate the wood, so it's a more varnishy kind of a feel than anything else. Okay, Jay's Trucking Guitar says, "I think you misunderstood my question. In competing in scratch build, but should still be able to vote once in all other categories." Oh my, so sorry. So many people have been asking about, essentially, there is a loophole. Technically, a lot of people have spotted that you could enter a paid competitive category and you could enter the free category and then basically get an extra vote for yourself, which, yeah, is not what you're asking about. Okay, yes. If you are in any of, basically you get to vote in every single category, even the categories in which you are competing. I figured if politicians get to vote for themselves, then quite frankly, you should be allowed to vote for yourself in your build. It just makes sense, doesn't it, really? Yeah, I would rather do that than mess around. It's trying to send out specific questionnaires per category or per builder or whatever. It's just, okay, here you go. Who are your votes? Go for it. And I am 100% going to vote for myself in my invitational build. Now the problem is Crimson's also going to be competing in the professional. So Crimson is going to have to vote for themselves as a separate entity in the then we see it all works out. It all works out. Cool, cool, cool. Now, let's see. Dave says, what would you suggest for taking finish off an old Strato? Actually, never mind. Blowtorch ordered. You got me there. You got me there. Or there are people that dip furniture to remove a lot of stuff, and they've got very nasty chemicals that they're allowed to use that will dampen the whole guitar down and potentially mess up the joints, etc. But there we go. HS Guitars says, just put in my order for some Crimson stains and finishing oils. Man, shipping from the UK to the US hurts. Ha ha. It does, and I'm actually on the stain front at the very least. Most of the stains are going to be shipping very soon, and this isn't going to help you, I'm sorry. They're going to be shipping in the bottle, but without all of the water being added. It'll have the concentrate in the right amount, and you just fill the bottle up, give it a mix, and then you've got your stain. And that is going to save not only a huge amount of shipping for customers, but also a hell of a lot of carbon, etc. That's it. PS Guardian has come in with a super chat, said, how goes the availability on all of your stains? Vibrant, pastel, standard, as shots. Okay, we are working on that. If you are interested, please drop us an email through shop@crimsonguitars.com. As near as I understand it, we have everything we need except for the labels, which we are waiting for. So yeah, basically drop us an email, say that Ben suggested, and they'll confirm with me, Ben suggested putting it on pre-order potentially, and then you can get your order in and we will get them out to you as soon as we've got those labels sorted. Now, those labels should have been ordered a few weeks ago, so we're properly talking imminent. But yeah, as I said, I mean, the shots is essentially what we're going to be doing, shipping them out in mostly empty big bottles with all of the big labels on as well. So if you would prefer that, also drop us an email. That's something that is also going to be happening very soon. Jay's Trucking says, okay then, so then it is multiple votes, just one vote in each category, but only one total vote for yourself. Exactly. Did I misunderstand your question 3 times? Yes, we are all going to be voting in each category, period, including the category in which you are competing. So everybody is going to vote on who is the best kit builder. Everybody's going to vote on who is the best scratch builder, or at least who builds your favorite guitar in that category. Everybody's going to vote, including the people in the community builds, on who is the best in the professional and the invitationals, etc., etc. So yeah, we'll just send out, it'll either be a questionnaire that we email out to everybody, or, and we'll have to put this to a vote, we'll potentially have everybody who wants to vote create a post on their profile page saying, okay, I vote for X, Y, Z. Now, I'm not sure if everybody wants their votes to be public or not. If they don't mind, then we'll do that. If they do, it'll be a closed ballot system via email or a third-party competition. There's all sorts of different software platforms that offer things like that. Personally, I would prefer it all to be on the profile pages, because at that point I can win without people thinking that I've somehow jury-rigged the competition, because, as I said before, I'm competitive. Why not? Alrighty. Okay. Audio. Is the audio good, or is it bad? The big unit saying, yeah, shipping is almost the same as the cost of the product, and it is a huge issue for us. Shipping sucks. right now. It's horrific. Tommy Transplant says we may need a chart or diagram to understand the voting. Dude, seriously. Everybody's got a vote in every category. 1 vote per category. It's all good. Okay. Community is voting. Everybody is voting. Everybody's voting, including community. They are not in the competition themselves. They are not competing for anything. That's kind of the whole point of the community category. But they are going to help in the judging. The more people in the pool judging and watching and getting involved, the better, in our opinion. That might have changed in between me sending you a reply the other day, but I'm fairly sure not. Again, I might have misunderstood you. Alrighty. Jake Richards said I stripped the finish off a Squire Strat with a heat gun. It works great. Just make sure you don't concentrate heat in one area for too long or it will burn the wood. Absolutely will burn the wood, and could also potentially mess up your the glue joint if you've got a 2 or a 3-piece body. Casey McDermott's coming with a super chat. Cheers, Casey. I don't want to fuss with break angle. Can I make the fretboard thicker and raise the nut instead of having a very slight break angle? No, not really, because essentially that means that your truss rod will be closer to the back of the neck and will therefore be weaker. And if you have to give that any willy, you're going to sort of really cut. It's potentially going to blast through the back of the neck, which would be catastrophic. In all seriousness, a break angle is so very simple. In fact, it is simpler to do a guitar with a slight break angle by far than it is, in my opinion at least, to do a flat Strat or Tele style headstock. In order to do that properly, you need to have really machine tools and the experience to use them. Whereas with just a standard 9 degree or 8 degrees, something like that, maybe 12 break angle, it can just be done with a plane. Or hell, not even a plane, you could do it with a rasp if you wanted to. Now, you don't have to be very specific about the break angle. Anywhere between, say, 7 and 8 degrees and 12 to 14 is perfectly fine. It does not have to be precise. This is not frets you're talking about. This is not scale length or intonation. It is just making sure that you've got enough tension on there to pull down at the nut. And pretty much any break angle is going to give you more tension than, you know, Strats and Teles. So you're all right. It'll be good. Okay. There's a chair there and it's most annoying. Maybe I should be sitting down. I don't know. Bill Taylor says, hey Ben, I'm getting ready to start finishing a guitar made of black limber and I plan to do an oil finish. It is a very open pore, so I'm considering using a clear grain filler prior to oil. Thoughts? If you feel the need to fill the grain, if you don't like the look of an open grain, then yes, that would work. Another option is to use the oil as the grain filler, i.e. as long as you haven't stained the guitar first, you can flood it with penetrating guitar finishing oil or even the thicker stuff, although I'd say penetrating to start, and then rub across the grain with 1500 grit to 2000 grit wet and dry paper. This not only burnishes the wood and the finish and creates a much glossier oil finish than you would normally get, it also creates a slurry of tiny particles of sawdust that you're pushing across the grain into those pores. So push it across the grain, then wipe all of the excess away into the grain, and as that dries and cures, you can build up an absolutely perfect finish. Most grain fillers, and this is the perfect grain filler because it's made out of the actual wood that you're filling. Most grain fillers are are made out of tiny particles of something like that, in any case, suspended in an oil or some other thing. I've lost the word. I can talk for England, and then the live stream comes up and it's 8:30 in the evening on a Sunday and my brain goes, we're finished. Anyhow, you know what I'm talking about. It's all good. All right, 129 people, 43 likes. It's all right. Okay, Bulgarian Evolution says, so if everyone votes for themselves, does that mean that the 400-way tie for first place, that everyone gets the first place prize package? Everyone is going to vote. So, for example, if we've got 100 people in the scratch competition, yes, there are going... Everybody who's in that scratch competition is going to vote for themselves. Absolutely, of course. You wouldn't. Who wouldn't? But there are also going to be, I assume, 100 people in the community competition. There's also going to be, probably based on last year, 50 to 75 people in the kit build competition. There's also going to be the invitational people with votes, if they choose to get involved to that extreme. And I know that some people will, of course, and there are others who won't. But yes. There we go. I think there's not going to be a tie. And there's also going to be a bunch of people who don't vote for themselves. I am willing to bet. Okay. Robert R says, hey Ben, have you seen or used some of the mosaic pins that you can use in that knife builders use? Have you used them as fret markers? I have not, although that's a very cool idea. Tommy Transplant says, hypothetically doing inlays on a kit neck, is it ridiculous to pull frets and reinstall? Is it possible practical with frets in? Always, thanks for everything. It's an absolute pleasure, Tommy. Yes, no, it's absolutely possible. It depends on the inlay. You would want to take the frets out if you're going to be putting in a full vine inlay or something like that. If you are putting in, I don't know, squares or crowns instead of dots, then no, you absolutely can do that while the frets are still in. Just, hell, there's people that, yeah, you're going to scallop a fretboard with the frets in. It's just a case of having a small enough file to accurately get the inlay down to the right height, and then you mess around a little bit more than you would genuinely like to in order to get it nice and smooth and the perfect finish. Amusingly, fret polishing rubbers are incredibly useful for sanding down fretboards and homogenizing the finish. So if you have used super glue and you need to scrape all of that away from your fretboard, you will end up with a scraped fretboard, and you'll have marks no matter how sharp your scraper is or how well you've done it. It just looks like a hot mess, really. So you then go with a fine and then a super fine fret rubber across the fretboard, in line with the frets, and that makes the whole fretboard look homogeneous and perfect, basically. You can go even coarser if you really want to. This is something I use quite a lot when I'm doing restorations. So if I've got a rosewood fretboard that's just nasty, I'll use fret rubbers to clean it, if necessary. So there we go. Mr. D20 says, when using a two-piece body blank, how important is it to use the glue line as the center line of the body? Not important at all structurally. There are probably millions of guitars a year made where that isn't the case. And think about, all the 3, 4, 5-piece bodies that Fender et al. Have made over the years. So no, absolutely not important in the slightest. If you are, however, it does look weird if it's not. So if you're using a transparent stain, etc., then yeah, you want to join that up just because it throws the mind off. So it's entirely aesthetic. It's all about how it looks. And if you're painting a solid finish, or if you want to make a feature of it, i.e. I'll make a guitar body with a piece where the joint is 2/3 of the way along and have an alternate strip or something, a racing stripe in spalted beech when the rest of the body's ash, and etc. Kind of like my the bog oak and epoxy build, for example. So you can really turn it to your advantage. Humor K says, I have a contact who, courtesy of recent storms, has access to lots of beech. Any use for acoustic or electric guitars? Once tried. If it's spalted, it gets used quite a lot. It can be used for tops. In general, no. It can also be used for necks. It's not too dissimilar to rock maple, really, if you've got a nice, strong, straight grain piece. But we just don't use it very much. I wonder why. Now, I mean, we use beech at Crimson for some tools. We have used our rock and neck rests are spalted beech, so, or at least have been. I don't know if they actually are at the moment. But anyway, that's not important now, is it? Dum dum dum. Now, Franz Trutter says, has Nick Offerman and Adam Savage accepted their invitational invites yet? Or can you give us some indication of who might join us this year? We are in progress. Adam has yet to answer any. In fact, I'm probably going to get a restraining order. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I have a message here from a certain Brad Angove who's indicated that he's interested. It wouldn't be GGBO without Brad. Okay, now here's some questions via our Discord. Says Ben, okay, is the fretboard too high off the top of this SG kit? Potentially a little bit, and you would just sand or plane the back of the neck off and just lower it down and change the angle from there. Spike says, Ben, have you watched Jimmy Dresser's new Netflix series, Making Fun? The last one, the guitar boat build, was so cool. 18-foot acoustic boat, a must-see. I was dragged into the lounge 2 days ago by my 7-year-old. Says, you've got to watch these guys making stuff, they're so cool. And I was like, I know him. So yes, I've watched an episode. I did not see the guitar boat build. Yeah, it's cool. If this hasn't already been asked, Ben, when do we get to watch the next episode of your hand tool only acoustic travel guitar build? And what about the concluding or penultimate video of your insane weight relief transformation of your daughter's guitar? So Jasmine's guitar is sitting here. There's work in progress. I was silver leafing all of the holes and I realized that was literally insane. I've got some, yeah, it's in progress. So that will be going live in the next couple of weeks. The 10-day, one-day build is being finished tomorrow during the main live stream on the main channel. And once I've got those two completely finished and out of my way, then the hand tool only build will recommence. And I'm not going to fall into this again. We are going to, moving forward, we're going to have, there will still be the live streams on the Monday and it will be a different build, but we're not going to start releasing those edits until 3, 4, 5 months down the line, probably, unless it's to YouTube members. If you aren't yet a member of the main channel, please go and check that out. YouTube members or patrons will get early access as these things are done. But I think that through various issues this year, mainly the move of the Vintage Tool Shop into the Crimson Guitars fold, and the sheer huge amount of time that took, and just the paperwork and the nonsense. Life got very complicated, and there's too many things going on. I like having 2 builds on, but I don't like having 2 separate series going. I also do want to have a lot more individual videos where Mark Jennings has just completely derailed me. I do want to have a lot of smaller videos where I spend 5 minutes saying this is how you sharpen a scraper, this is how, or should you even consider getting into guitar building in the first place, is it a viable career? Here's a tutorial on how to set up a hand plane properly, this is, etc. Those shorter, smaller, more tutorial style videos are quite important to me, and every time I think I'm about to get on top of doing that sort of thing, I start another guitar build and it just spirals. It spirals, I tell you. Mark Jennings sent £2, says, did you mention doing a paid design consultancy? Maybe at some point in the future past. I think in the past I have said that I would consider doing a limited amount of consulting work on people's budding guitar building businesses. Now that is not something that I have huge amounts of time for. I struggle to even answer my own emails. So probably not necessarily a good idea. Okay. Alrighty, I'm just working my way down the list of the Discord questions. Scotsman says, hi Ben, build number 6 done and dusted. Check the colour of that Brazilian mahogany spot sycamore top. Learned yet more yet again, looking forward to the next one. Thanks for adding the community section to the GGBO. I'm really looking forward to joining in. And there we go, it's a beautiful guitar. Check that out on the Discord. Okay, Marson of the Nuclear Village says, hi Obi-Wan Crowe Obi. Obi Bun Crowe Obi. Okay, there we go. I bought this beautiful, oh my gosh, 101 and a half a few months ago, and now I wonder if it's better to keep it or sell it with a little profit. What would you do? Do you think it's a good investment? Okay. The question is, how much did you buy it for? I currently have the market cornered in 101 and a half planes. I tried to set up a so that my computer could show you images, but failed today. I've got currently 2 of those at Vintage Tool Shop up for sale, and I've got a 3rd that is in my collection now. And no, that camera's dead. It depends on how much you sold it for. They are very, very, very rare, and I currently have them up at over £400 for sale. Now, I was aware that there was one available in the UK that was going for about 150 or 200 via auction, something like that. I would say put it up at the 400. Snipe me a little bit. Put it up like 50 quid less than the 2 that I've got at Vintage Tool Shop, which were both found in the bottom of the same box, and you might well sell it. And if not, put it up at an insane price, use it until it sells, and be done. But it will keep its value. If you have something else that you need the money for, then sell it. If you don't, then seriously, keep it. It's just gonna keep, they are getting rarer, and people aren't stopping collecting vintage hand planes, and that's pretty much one of the rarest Stanley hand planes out there. Spike is thinking of making a multi-scale Melody Maker acoustic onic short scale model 2275 like I had as a teen. Would it be more practical to do a 22.75 inch bass and 24.75 for the treble? Too wonky, unplayable? Not wonky, not unplayable at all. You can go a whole hell of a lot more extreme than that if you would like to. What scale is my favorite? It depends on the guitar, essentially. And should I just do no multi-scale or less radical? No, go insane. Multi-scale is absolutely better. It is absolutely more comfortable. It absolutely sounds better. It spreads the tension of the strings better. I like multi-scale guitars. They're more comfortable to use in general. If you are going for a spread that is more than, say, 3 inches between the two extreme scale lengths, then maybe mock it up first. Make yourself a little neck out of foam or MDF or something like that, and mark out where the frets would be and see if that's comfy to you. But in fact, that's the way to do it. If you are uncertain about a multi-scale guitar, do something like that. JS Trucking Guitar sent a super chat saying SC Guitars just forwarded an email picture and question for me. I'll get to that. Alright, here we go. It's here. From left to right, ebony, purple heart, curly maple and Bolivian rosewood. Which one would you rather use for a fretboard? All 4 of them are for fretboards, but this is to help with design input for GGBO. I can't make up my mind. I think the Bolivian rosewood is absolutely gorgeous. But again, you know, you do you, mate. I think that it's not just, hey, that's a pretty wood. I chose the Bolivian rosewood because it's a little bit non-standard and it's got some sapwood in there, which is quite pretty. But you might not like sapwood. I don't know. Fine. Okay. This is from Bubbly Juice in the chat. Says, hey Ben, if I politely and respectfully harass Ricky enough on email, would Crimson be able to do me a slightly customized kit build training course? You wouldn't even need to harass him in the slightest. We will customize any course that you want to do. You know, we've got a standard kit build course up there, and it's, I think, 3 days. If you want to do 5 days and absolutely go crazy, cool. If you think it's going to take 2 weeks and you want to smush 3 kits together to make a triple neck harp guitar, we'll make that happen. From our point of view, the only difference or the only issues are that we need to make sure that we know what you want to do and that there's enough time to do it. And then we have 5-day courses going some weeks and 6-day courses going some other weeks, and we'd have to figure out which of those weeks to put you in. But yeah, drop an email and say, yeah, this is what I want to do. Let me do it. You might have noticed I'm fairly flexible, and I find that it's very important to me as a business to be flexible and to give people what they want. We will customize courses, we will customize, you know, every single kit that we make is customizable on request. So yeah, it'll be good to see you. Bubbly Juice. Do I get to call you that in person though? That's the question. Oh, and Ricky's in the chat saying I can do that. I didn't even need to answer that. Fine, alrighty. Hey Ricky, how you doing? It's a good thing I didn't say you don't need to harass him, but I'll pay you to. Anyway, we're done. No, that's in the public domain. Damn it. Bulgarian Evolution, I'm really querying your question now because the scratch build is by far the biggest segment of the competition. There's already nearly 100 people entered into that competition. So if everybody in there only votes for themselves, then... Or maybe we make it that you're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to vote for yourself, but you have to vote in that category. Maybe we can do that. What do you guys think? All right. Spike's Frugal Luthier Shop says, thanks, I needed encouragement to do something crazy for a scratch build, a community build, relationship, nightmare build, destroyed base, long story. Okay. Yes. The Big Unit says, several people have advised me to do a telly for my first build. In your opinion, what is better, top route and pickguard, or no pickguard. It depends on your experience with tools, and do not let anybody tell you what to do, ever. I was discussing some teenagers that we tangentially know who've decided that they've got this very weird and rare sort of psychological issue. And I'm like, yeah, it's possible that maybe one of them does, but I'm sure that both of them don't. And I'm like, oh, darling, Tanya, what's my favorite thing that I keep on? I've decided I've got that's, you know, so sexy and cool. She's like, oppositional defiance disorder. Well, yes, that's it. Don't tell me what to do. I'll just do the opposite. Anyway, now, yes, a Telecaster as a first build is almost traditional, but you don't actually have to do the Telecaster shape. If you're not into, I mean, Telecaster can do anything. It is the best guitar in the world, after all. Please don't quote me on that. You can build a guitar any shape you want using the Telecaster design aesthetic, or not even design aesthetic, build aesthetic, i.e. simple, flat top, single coil pickups, easy to wire, cheap hardware, etc., 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 bolt on neck. You don't have to build a Telecaster. You can build a guitar that's still a slab body and a bolt on neck with no break angle, single pickups, etc. The scratch plate is optional. If you like scratch plates, cool. If you don't like scratch plates, see if you can design a scratch plate you do. Play with copper. Play with hand-beaten silver. Wow. There's a clickbaity video. I took some solid silver sheet and turned it into a scratch plate for my telly. Yeah, I like that. I don't know my notebook. Silver scratch plate. Let's see if I can read this in the morning. Bum bum bum. It's all about that clickbait, yo. Okay, anyway. Personally, if you are doing a telly, then do a telly. Pickguard and everything. However, as I've said now several times in this build, in this video, sorry, you do you. There is no point in building guitars if you don't build something that inspires you. At that point, it just becomes a slog and not fun, and it's not worth doing at that point. JS Trucking Guitar says, I don't think you have enough hand planes in your background, lol. Have you seen all the planes in Wood by Wright's background? I've counted at least 50. I have more than he has, but he probably uses a lot more of the moulding planes than I do. I'm in the mood to clean house a little bit. There are planes I don't use. I have a collection I'm building of a certain era of Stanleys just because I like them. And it is also partly a set. But, yeah. Anyway. Okay, Kiwi Quarters says, hey Ben, I'm thinking about a guitar with circular elements. Is there a way, without a lot of maths, of finding the center line? Yes. Let us have a look here. So, funnily enough, that's where my mug was earlier. If you have a... That was it. So basically you need to take a piece of wood, cut a square into it, and then bisect that angle with a piece of wood. So it generally goes like that. Bump, bump. Okay. And then all you do is you move that around and you draw a line. Draw a line. So you've got one there, then you'll have one there, then you have one there, and where they meet, that's your center. Now, that is called a center finding jig. It's very, very easy to make. You can buy them. Wood turners use them quite a lot. There is another option, and that is to people also print on acetate a variety of circles with a center finding thing, and you can just poke a hole through the middle. Wood turners again use that to find things. So yeah, that works. Let me just check and see. I don't think I've missed any super chats yet. It's very important to me that I get all of the super chats. Nick off them, that would be great. But yeah, Kiwi quarters, I do not use maths if I can avoid it. I am terrible at that. Numbers flip in my brain and it doesn't work. Okay, there we go. Eric Jewell sent $5. Thank you very much, Eric, and says, I'm making a P-bass with a flamed ambrosia wormy maple body. Fantastic. Any advice on how to treat holes bored by the beetles? If it is strong enough, you don't really need to. Make sure there's no live beetles in there, humanely if at all possible. Humanely if at all possible. Don't let them out in your timber store, for damn sure. Now, personally, you've got several options. You can flood it with very thin epoxy, which I don't like doing. When it's in rectangular form, you can use cactus juice, something like that, which is water thin, and you put it in a vacuum. You've got your whole neck in the vacuum, which is a problem because vacuum chambers are not generally made that big, and you suck the epoxy through, the resin through, then you put it in an oven and you cure it, then you do the whole thing again multiple times. It's just not fun. An alternative is to flood it with thin superglue, which is creates nasty gases and fumes and things, and it's not fun either, especially sanding it down. That's ultra not fun. The next option is standard thick epoxy, and that is good, but the problem is you can't guarantee that. So just epoxy that you would buy, you know, at your local garage or services or something like that. And the problem with that is that you've got a fairly deep hole that is, you're not necessarily going to get to the bottom of it. So, and you don't have to use epoxy. Epoxy is the it material of the decade, apparently. You could just mix sawdust, fine sawdust, not fluffy sawdust, not 80 grit sawdust, 120, 160, 100, 200 grit fine sawdust. You reading me? Okay. Mix fine sawdust with white glue and pack it the hell into the hole. I would prefer that over using epoxy any day. It takes longer to cure. There is a little bit more shrinkage as it cures, so you need to be aware of that. Now, in order to make sure that you have filled the holes as much as possible, I would, if it is feasible, I would do this after you have carved what you need to carve, so that you've gotten rid of a lot of hole that you would fill otherwise and that would get in the way, and only fill what you need to. Now, it's a maple body. Frankly, I wouldn't fill it with anything. I love holes and gaps and crevices and cracks and things. We build the Raw Series guitars at Crimson. I love them. So yeah, leave it. Looks gorgeous. Anthony Cunliffe is coming with a £10 super chat. Dude, you rule. Thank you very much. Says, of all the guitars you've built, would you ever consider making a hybrid of the best bits of two or more? Yeah. If yes, what would the hybrid consist of? If no, on the fly, please. If no, on the fly, please. Your weird science guitar. Okay. The thing is, pretty much every guitar is a hybrid of a bunch of different influences. Now, I would particularly like to see a combination of my 12-hour guitar and the Cyberpunk build with some alterations. I went completely off-piste on that one. The Bog Oak and Gold Leaf, I mean, that's a beautiful guitar, and I could do those materials, but in the Descendant would look really good in that, for example. Other than that, I mean, Bob needs some more. We need to do more of that, more iterations of that. Yeah, I'm going with my first one, my 12-hour and the Cyberpunk 2077 build. Alrighty, Lisa Harshberger says, making a fretless U-bass with a violin-style body through neck. Does the headstock need to be the same wood as the neck? No, it does not in the slightest. It would be, obviously use a wood that is relatively solid and nice and, you know, isn't going to snap or break. But I made a Flying V many moons ago, where I had a beautiful flame maple neck, and the scarf on headstock was rosewood, and it was striking and interesting and different. And yeah, go for it. Okay. Okay. Rabnox says, Ben, can you make sure the invitationals promote their builds and the GGBO this year, as they didn't really do it last year and built it separate away from it? I cannot force any YouTuber to do anything that they don't want to do or don't feel like they want to do. This year I am... there are going to be other people, and some of the old guard are not going to be here. To be honest, there's only... Anyway, hey, I'm going to stop incriminating myself. How's that? Now, that being said, yes, we are going to be promoting them a bit more. We are going to be doing semi-regular videos on the Crimson Guitars YouTube channel to pull together the whole thing and say, okay, here's a rundown of who's doing what. Here's something interesting from Spike. Here's something interesting from Rab. Von Art Guitars is... coming to do, he's jumping the gun. Looking at the question here, etc. So we're going to try and push as much interest to the smaller channels as humanly possible on our own. And yes, we are going to say, hey, look, if you want to be in the invitational, that's fine, but you really need, the guitars in the invitationals are going to be all raffled off. And you really need to tell your audience that this is what it's for, and if they want the guitar that you're making there, they need to go to this link, and here's the raffle, and here's the link, and it has to be done. And if they're not going to do that, then they don't get to compete, basically. You know, certainly if you can't be bothered to even finish the build, then you can piss right off. So, yeah, we'll see. Okay. Garage Master Guitars. Garage Master Guitars says, hi Ben, will there be any t-shirts available for purchase or otherwise for the GGBO community builders? Yes, there will be a community t-shirt. While I was recording the video announcing the community build section, Bear was already designing the t-shirt and the logo and all that. So yes, that has been done. We just need to sort out the links and get them sent to you. There will also be just standard GGBO t-shirts without the competition, etc. Probably mugs and t-shirts and bits and pieces like that available as well for those interested. Whew. Okay. Stephen. For a neck that doesn't fit the neck pocket 100%, what's your process figuring out what gets sanded first? My cheap kit's neck fits too tightly and is at a bit of an angle and doesn't go all the way in the pocket towards the body. My thinking is sanding the bits of the neck pocket that are ultra smooth, as those would be the bits that are being compressed from being too tight. Not necessarily true. You have to draw the lines on the neck pocket itself following it down to the bridge and make sure that the neck pocket is correctly angled. You need to make sure that it lines up with the bridge rather than that it lines up with itself, if that makes sense. Okay. And I would suggest that sanding material off the neck rather than the pocket is always easier. Okay, come on then. Von Art Guitars has come in and says, am I allowed to post a video on my YouTube channel and announce that I'm competing and show the template for the style of guitar I'm doing before April 1st? Actually, yes. That's fine. I'm not going to... The rules state that on April 1st we will make public the pages that are linking to everybody's profile page, where they are then able to start promoting their videos, etc. So we are not going to be promoting, we are not going to be showing who's who, who's in, who's doing anything until the 1st of April. At that point, the website's going to go properly live and other people are going to be able to watch and see. Now, that rule was designed and created when I thought that the public were voting. And in reality, it's almost a moot point at this point because the public aren't voting. So there is no advantage to be gained by not having that live, because everybody who's voting is already going to be in the same forums, etc., talking to each other. So no, basically go wild. That rule is still in place. April 1st I will make the website live because that's what I've said I'm doing, but in reality, if you put out social media posts on your Instagram or your YouTube or whatever, saying that you're starting the build, it's not a problem. It really isn't a problem. Okay, Lisa Harshberger says, I'm debating freestyle or community. I'm starting a YouTube channel and thinking it's a good starting point. It really is. It really, 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 really is. I mean, freestyle if you're going to do... freestyle if you're going to do more of what you're currently doing, absolutely. But yeah. Anthony Cunliffe says the if no was if you hadn't considered a hybrid. But I have another question. Does Crimson appraise build ideas before a course is booked or only once money has been sent? Oh, no. Again, Ricky's actually in the chat, or at least was watching. I don't tell staff they have to watch my live streams, and I'm always surprised when they do. Talk to Ricky, and no, prior to booking the course, he will say, oh yes, this sounds like a 6-day course. Oh yes, you need to live with us for a year because my gosh man, you're insane. Has Ben got to you? So no, we'll talk you through what's feasible, what's likely, what options we would like you to consider, etc., and go from there. My life is constantly charging batteries when I'm in the building. I always have to turn it off because I don't want, yeah, fire. Do you know what? I've caught up with the batteries. Crikey. Alrighty. Now, Spike's Frugal Luthier Shop says, if crappy wood with rotten cracks is really usable, I have an unlimited supply. Lol from my current wood guy. Maybe free. Sycamore or maple. Yeah, absolutely. It does depend. There is an extent to which it can be used, but I really like using wood like that, at least on bodies and headstock, bodies and tops, etc. JS Trucking Guitar says the rules clearly say that we can start building early but can't upload any YouTube videos or posts about the GGBO until April 1st. Ah! See, I can't even remember my own damn rules now. So much has changed. Rules. It's been a long-assed week, and you're very detail-oriented. I appreciate it. basically, as I just explained, that rule should have been removed with the new update, because that rule was to stop people talking to the public who were going to vote. And it's a moot point at this point because the public aren't voting. The people who are voting can already see your profile, can already see the private social area part of the Great Guitar Build-Off website. So it's a moot point. I'm going to have to remove that rule. Micah Noel says, alternatives to epoxy for a glassy river effect. Ever used actual glass for an inlay? Sounds dangerous. I have not, although I have seen it done. There are no alternatives. You can inlay acrylic if you want to, and I've got plans to do something like that. You can actually inlay glass. I would make sure to use... Oh. Okay, that's interesting. So if you want a river effect with sort of edges, that would need to be custom cut and ground. Armored glass is actually an option, or at least shatter resistant glass. So yeah, I mean, basically it is an option. You would still have to epoxy it into the body, and it could be interesting. There is that guy, Morning Glass Guitars, something like that. That's if you haven't yet, check them out. Jake Richard says, does everybody that enters GGBO have to have a YouTube channel? I would like to enter, just not so sure about filming everything and doing YouTube. It will be hard enough to find the time for the build. Basically, it is a YouTube competition. If you don't have a video out, then you're not going to be we basically won't be voting for you. So pretty much yes. Now, we created a video last year talking about quick and easy tips and tricks on cameras and how to edit and all of that jazz. There is potential. We were thinking about offering an editing service to the professional category if they don't have an editor. But the problem is that is going to cost money, and it's not necessarily going to be cheap because editing just takes time and is not cheap. So yeah, if you aren't... You can be in the community build without a video, absolutely. Build along, have a community page, your own profile, post photos of the build, 100%. But to compete in the scratch or the kit build, etc., 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 judging requires a final video on YouTube. It doesn't have to be an amazing video; just show the guitar off and preferably be the building process of it. Well, not preferably; it needs to show the building of the guitar. But it could literally just be a slideshow of the photos of you building it, for example, or something like that. It doesn't have to be... This is a guitar building competition, it is not an editing competition, which is sort of, kind of what it felt like last year. Matt Lang hopes Tamar does another build. Beautiful guitars. That is a very good point. I'm going to send that to her. Okay, Sarah Anthony, I didn't finish your question. What happened there? The no was if you hadn't considered a hybrid. But I have another question. Okay, no, I did. Okay. Phew. I am not functioning properly. Divergent Guitars has come in with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. And says, thinking about building a 30-inch scale through neck semi-hollow base 6 for GGBO. Any advice on mounting humbuckers in a semi-hollow body to reduce and avoid feedback attached to the top or the through neck? Okay. I saw a very cool thing by FU Tone recently, and it's a brass section with threaded holes that you'll pick up. Threaded holes and then countersunk holes. So you screw it to the inside of the body, and then your pickup just screws directly into it. Very cool. I'm thinking about nicking the idea. It's just so cool. But I'm not sure if there is. Okay, I do not know if feedback is as a result of or is accentuated by any particular method of mounting the pickups. That's where my confusion lays, and that's where my hesitation is. I don't actually think that is the case. Feedback is generally created by a standing wave within the guitar that sort of hits itself and then promulgates, is that the word? It gets bigger and bigger and bigger inside the guitar and creates the feedback depending on where you are in relation to the amp and what's happening inside the guitar, etc. So the only way to stop that feedback is to stop the vibrations or inhibit the vibrations getting into the guitar. I don't think there's an interaction with the pickup. Now, I may be wrong, and because I've just said something on the internet, somebody's going to tell me what the actual answer is. I love the internet. Alrighty. Okay. Spike's Frugal Luthier's shop is being mean about somebody. Our big social media cheater has stated he's not in this year, but was before your changes. I don't know who you're talking about. I reserve the right to refund anybody their entrance fee and kick them out because, quite frankly, I'm not interested in any bullshit this year. Unless I created it, of course. Okay. And divergent guitars, that sounds like an awesome build, by the way. See you in the stream tomorrow, Adam to remember. Any advice on filling a pickup cavity? If you're going to be spraying... Okay, even if you want to cover it with wood, I would initially fill it with a two-part automotive body filler. Now, if you want to cover the top with wood, I would cut a thin section to match as close as you can the pickup shape. I would then flood as much automotive body two-pack filler in there as possible, and then use that to glue the wood in. That fills all cavities and things and should spooge out around the sides of your wood, and yeah, that's what I would do. If not, just use the filler, sand it back and paint it. I've done that before, long time ago. But we then had the guitar come in for repair or refinishing, or maybe it was even a guitar that I didn't even give to a customer, come to think of it. And the guys at Crimson stripped it down and they found all of this filler everywhere. It was just, oh my gosh. Whew, embarrassing. Barry Christian says he seriously wants to join GGBO, but starting a YouTube channel is more scary than building a guitar. I'm more of a radio face than a TV face. You don't have to be on camera. Seriously. A camera over the workbench, close up on your hands. You don't even have to talk. There are some people I'm inviting into the invitational who don't speak English. I don't care about what you look like. I don't care about what you sound like. I don't care if you speak the same language as us. If you can build a guitar, I want to see it being built. You don't have to have 14 million Canon cameras floating around. You don't even have to have a workbench. A phone on a little GorillaPod thing, getting some close-up views, perfectly fine. There are many channels that I enjoy watching where you don't see people's faces. It's not important, mate. Although I'm now kind of intrigued at what you look like. So, hey, there we go. If I've got a YouTube face, then yeah. Anyway. Woohoo! Mr. Waffles says, I have no intention of ever showing more than my hands and arms. Somebody the other day told me I should do a bloody Borat build while wearing the bloody mankini. Ah. The big unit says, burn it, melt the glass. That sounds fun. Spike was posting about GGBO 22 getting shop and tools ready 3 or 4 months ago. Lol, whoops. Thanks, Ben. Feel vindicated. Yeah, preparing, that's absolutely fine. And that was absolutely fine under the old rules that I now need to delete off the thing. I've written it down. What I didn't want was with the public vote to have somebody build an entire guitar and then have 6 months of saying, check out my guitar, it's amazing. Check out my guitar, it's amazing. Oh, look at this, I won the local craft fair, etc., etc., etc. The final videos all need to go around, hit at around about the same time. Whew. Just to make it fair. JS Trucking has mirror squares for inlay material. Sounds cool. For the river effect, enamel would be fun, and enamel has to be cooked in a fire. Okay. The real wonky dog, how you doing? Haven't seen you yet this evening. Probably a stupid question. Would a bad guitar with super video be judged the same as a great guitar with a bad video? Probably, but if you've got bad audio, you're screwed. The video is absolutely essential. We need to see the build process. It gives you the chance to be who you are on camera and build a relationship with the people watching you. There's 148 of you. Every time I look at that number and start saying it, somebody hangs up. It's hilarious. You guys wouldn't be here if you didn't, at the very least, find me tolerable to be around. Okay, and it's the same sort of thing on this. You want people to vote for you, make them like you by being in the videos. Now, that being said, 147, while the video is very important, again, due to the changes that we've just made, it is not necessarily the most important, because you guys are all, who are competing, 148 again, are going to have, and only 85 likes, click that like, are going to have a mini GGBO social media platform inside the Great Guitar Build-Off, and you'll be seeing photographs. The people who are going to get the most votes are the people who post more regularly on that and interact with the community more often and talk and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, what do you think, or should I use this stain or that stain, etc., etc. The people who interact are the ones who are going to get voted for, in my opinion, and the final video is just part of that. Now, if there is no final video, then people won't be allowed to vote for you. But it's only part of the thing. Okay. Bum bum. Bum ba bum. I've heard that Jason Makes isn't going to be in this year. He just simply does not have the time. I sincerely hope that wasn't who people were talking was a cheater, because he really isn't. He's incredibly talented. Damn. Paul Needs, how you doing, Paul? Says feedback on a semi-hollow is incredible. If you're touching the top, especially, you can feel the thing is going to blow apart. I love, it amazes me how loud a neck can be if you just sort of put your ear up behind a neck and strum. The big unit says, so tomorrow is finish Boba Fret and design the next. That is the plan. That is the plan. Absolutely. Divergent Guitar says, other than the guideline of a max 45 minutes for the final video / super edit, are there any other requirements, i.e. quantity, length of the other build videos? Nope. You do you. Make as many or as few videos as you want. Personally, I think that sort of 8 to 10 videos in a guitar build gives you enough room to properly show what you're doing. But, for example, the invitationals and most other YouTubers seem to be perfectly capable of conveying a hell of a lot of information in 12 minutes. Don't know how they do it. Literally a mystery to me. Here, I've built a house. Watch me do it in 12 minutes. Wow, he built a house. Did I learn anything? Probably not. Were they entertained? Hell yeah. All right. Mr. Waffles says, I don't know about hollow bodies, but wax potting microphonic pickups works a treat. This is very, very true. We had a cheap set of wide range humbuckers and it fixed the problem. Dylan Talks Tone has a great video about it. Yes. Propagate, that's from Divergence. That's one word, but I'm sure promulgate is another. Come on, man. Google. Promulgate. It's a word.
The definition of promulgate. Promote or make widely known an idea or cause.
These objectives have to be promulgated within the organization. Now somebody needs to tell me the context in which I used it, because I think I was wrong. Okay. Divergent Guitars, no bullshit but my own, quoth Mr. Crowe. I'm fine. Barry Christian, if the intersection of an X brace is under the center of the bridge, is a bridge plate required or is it just belt and braces? A bridge plate is pretty much always required. It is... It is a very good idea to have a bridge plate, especially if it's a steel strung guitar. You could probably get away without it, but it wouldn't sound like what you're expecting. And yes, a bridge plate is required, I would suggest. Joe Thornhill, Baroque question. Hi, Ben, I know you didn't pay much attention in college. What gave you that impression? No, I really didn't. But why do you think fingerboards and bridges are so high on violins to double basses, if it's the waist or wider string spacing? Okay, so for two things. The one is that, okay, so an acoustic guitar, you strum the string and it moves side to side, and the instrument, the bridge propagates the vibrations out, down the sides, into the back, and it feeds back like that. When you just pluck a violin, it does not sound the same because it's not working with the same physical characteristics. A violin, you've got your bow that's going, and it feeds the string, 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 and it's going, and it works it up, and your bridge is really, really high up, so you've got enough tension on such a small thing, for one, but it's also, you've got your bridge, and then you've got the sound post underneath it that's connecting the top and the back. You don't have a sound post in an acoustic guitar because that job is done by the sides and the whole thing, and it's much less rigid than a sound posted traditional instrument, which is why with a relatively small amount of pressure you can make an acoustic guitar sing relatively loudly. With the violin, you're really working. So that's not necessarily why it's high, apart from the tension. That's just a little bit of the way it works. Now, the real reason it's high is that the two middle strings, that's one thing. But when you're playing on either of the outer strings, if the bridge wasn't that high up, you would be smacking the body of the violin with your bow, basically. So it's high so that you can have a bigger body than you would otherwise. And that's there we go. Disco Stew says, free biltong. Hi Ben, now I have your attention. What, no free biltong? What do you think? Why do you think semi-pro luthiers seem to prefer guitars with wood as the main feature, but big guitar companies sell mainly solid painted guitars? Because big guitar companies are not luthiers. They are not necessarily luthiers at the very least. They they struggle to find pretty wood, and it is easier. I can put out an advert in any town in the UK and I could probably find 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 people who at some point in their life have spray painted a car and want to do that for a job. It's relatively easy to spray solid colours and get an okay finish. It's relatively easy to find boring looking yet solid enough wood that will sound okay in a guitar. It's all about the money. It's all about what's easy to do. And, you know, I like the look of some solid painted guitars. I really do. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say on that. Alrighty. Ursinus Vombat today. Nice. Teasers, okay. No details, just GGBO content in April. So that rule is now being changed and I'm going to have to send out a thing. Basically, I don't like changing things so much, but essentially that rule is problematic. I would personally prefer it if we all started the proper building in April. I am not going to kick anybody out of the competition for jumping the gun. There were people jumping the gun before I even announced what the competition was going to look like this year. The beautiful thing about all of this, though, is that I sincerely don't think there's going to be any changes next year. Not to the basic how it all works. I think we've got that down. Yeah, there we go. All right, everybody. So come on, where are we? We've been going for 1.5 hours and I'm starting to run low on energy. Graham B says, can we have a sneak peek of your daughter's guitar? And the eyes on screen are actually looking at it, which is quite funny. She's a little bit wet. I've got some fairly dull silver paint in there. It's also not fully buffed at this point. I'm not too happy with this lacquer that we've been using. Now the plans are that I'm actually going to go in and do some cool stuff with these hex holes. Gosh, I like this guitar. God, that looks cool. Ah, sorry. Okay. A digression, people. Please forgive me. Yeah, that's taking a long time to do, that is. Tornelli guitars, that's it. Yeah, I had a video up 3 weeks before the rules came out. Solid paints also allow for special editions at pretty much no extra cost. JS Trucking says I tripped over your super chat. Ah, there we go. I generally... Oh, Mumbling Productions is in. Okay, sorry. Yes, I do trip over super chats, but I will always go back and check. But you also always let me know. Okay, so Mumbling Productions says, and you made me laugh, if you don't want to be on camera, you can always create an alter ego, Mr. Bob Raven. Seriously, Mumbling Productions, I want you to come and visit Crimson and film something with me. That would be, yeah. Get in touch. I need to talk to you. I would like to. Please, if you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate that. JS Trucking Guitar says, can you use an acoustic style bridge on an electric? Yes, you can. There isn't much point to doing that unless it is a acoustic-sonic-y sort of thing, which I think you're thinking about building, if that information correctly entered my brain pan earlier in this evening. But yes, you can, absolutely, no worries. It functions the same way. It functions as a guitar bridge. You lose the flexibility of an electric, but yeah, that is what it is. Okay, and there's a super chat saying, you missed my last super chat. I apologize. Disco Stew says, scale of 1 to number of episodes the Star Wars build will be. How proud are you of creating GGBO? I am incredibly happy that GGBO is turning into something that I can be proud of. Last year, I should have stopped it after last year. I really should have. It didn't achieve what I wanted. It didn't feel good doing some of it. There was a lot of bullshit involved. Year one, there was even more. Finally, I'm very, very proud, just as of Friday, like 2 days ago. Yes, I'm really, really happy. Now, the idea wasn't original. We've had people asking us to do a guitar building competition for probably a decade or more, if I go through and search the comments. In fact, we had a cigar box guitar building competition within the company at one point, and there were so many people in that video saying, you should do this with guitars, you should do this, you should have other YouTubers in, da, 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 da. So the idea wasn't the thing. And of course that came via Texas Toasters, and a mutual fan at least had the idea there. But finally with you guys, and this is what I want to say, finally, with you guys and with the community coming up with something that actually works, yes, that I'm proud of. Whee. Cal Star says, just a quick contribution to say thanks and keep up the good work with a super chat. Thank you very much. And yes, I think that people would have to tie me down, like very much so, outside, naked, and in midge season to stop me building guitars. And with that image, okay. Ivan Wizard says, finally I got here during a live. Again at last, albeit much too late. We'll stick around for a little bit longer just because of you. Lisa asks, is the protractor available yet, please? It isn't currently, but it is very much something that we're working on getting. The Big Unit says, the big day tomorrow. I have faith that you'll finally send Boba Fett off to the Sarlacc pit. I hope so. So I couldn't find black washers that I needed, which is kind of what put paid to the last episode. I've ended up spraying some black, and that's ready. I'm hoping that it'll be finished. It'll bloody well better be finished tomorrow, I tell you. Marsha Levine, how are you, Marsha? Says, hi, I've been lurking. Good news, the charitable organisation for veterans and first responders I helped to start is officially accepted as such per the US government. Now the real work starts. Dude, congratulations. Yeah. I know what a ball ache it can be setting that sort of stuff up. It's every time we look into it for GGBO, it's just like, I don't have the time. Oh my god. I don't have the energy. The brain energy. Okay, stream health. Apparently a little bit too high. 162 people watching, 106 likes. Dum 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 dum. Transparent finishes or nothing. That's from Drake Richard. Got to be able to see the wood grain. I really do prefer them and I like them, but I also really like the idea of using aluminium more. I really like the idea of using alternative materials, carbon fibers, and a bit of acrylic, for example. I don't know. It's just a difficult thing. Lisa asks a very good question. Lisa Harshberger says, your daughter is getting her guitar, right? Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Absolutely. I'm hoping, well, how much she uses it, we'll see. Okay. Okay, Spike's Frugal Luthier shop says, would you consider 5 votes per class to eliminate the personal votes mattering? Still would be secure, and if you don't turn in video in community, no votes. So essentially you are saying that everybody's got 25 votes, 5 for each category, thus meaning that you would vote. I don't think that would make any difference necessarily, unless we specifically said that you have to only vote, one of those votes can be for yourself, but the rest have to be spread out among other builders. The problem is that this is, while a really good idea, also starting to overcomplicate matters, which is something I do all the time and I'm desperately trying to avoid. However, it's not a bad idea, and that is in my head. JS Trucking Guitars just emailed pictures in response to yours and Talitha's answers to my would you rather last week. I'm not sure I want to see those. I'm sure I will, though. Disco Stu says, I remember taking a day off to watch your one-day Star Wars build. Nearly 3 months later, I work from home every Monday. It can't have been 3 months ago. It was 3 months ago, wasn't it? Bloody hellfire. Well, I'm glad you're at least working from home now. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry. And thank you. Yeah. What did I see something? Paul Need says there should be a prize for tolerant, significant others. Yes. I thought I saw. I just realised that I'm going to miss tomorrow. I have an eye appointment to check if I need / can have a cataract op next weekend. You don't have to miss the whole day. But if you do, well, I'm hoping it's not going to be a particularly long episode. I hope that we're going to be finished and done. Anthony Cunliffe says, I believe in you finishing tomorrow, Ben. Mr. Waffles is so sick of supply chain issues. I absolutely agree. Joe Thornell, Cherry Bakers. Actually, I don't mean to pry, but what did happen on Boba Fett Day 8? Was it just Tanya Orson or Byron on camera? No. I missed it because I was busy like everyone else on a Monday. No, we accidentally at some point gave not only our phone numbers but our address out. And it's something that we really don't want to have happen. There are weird people on the internet, so yeah, basically that happened. We edited out the 2 or 3 minutes it was there, and then that broke most of the live stream, so we had to just take it down. But frankly, it was very, 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 very boring. Rav Knox says you don't get midgies down there? Not that I've ever noticed. Here we go. I thought I saw this question. It started with the word crazy idea and then it flicked off my screen and I lost it. This is from Dusty Dark Horses. Crazy idea. How feasible would it be to carve the entire guitar out of a single piece of lumber? No joints. Not crazy. It's been done. It serves no feasible purpose. There is absolutely no reason to do it. In fact, it just wastes a hell of a lot more wood than you would normally waste. But it is feasible. Now, Chick's Guitars, he did that, if you want to see somebody doing it. Now, Richard Bacon says, "Oh, Ben 1T Crowe, thanks for the guidance last week. Plane wasn't flat and lever cap too tight. Now all sorted and daughter's record turntable almost complete. Fantastic. Might join GGBO after my 2-day course. I'm going to insist that you do." No, I would love to see you there if you feel comfortable with that. Kiwi Quarters is in with a super chat, says, "B, I'd like to do a scratch build for GGBO, but for cutting I only have a garage sale jigsaw. Advice? Especially for neck builds." Okay, so in reality you can use a cheap jigsaw to do this. All it means is that you need to cut further away from the line and start do a few tests before on the wood. So if you've got a neck blank that's, you know, fairly chunky, take a thin segment off and see if the blade is cutting to one side or another or how it's working. Buy new wood cutting blades for it before you do anything. Using an old blunt blade is going to exacerbate any issues with the jigsaw, but you should be perfectly fine. Cut so that you've got, say, 3 or 4 millimeters worth of spare room, and then use a saw rasp or something like that. We've actually got, sheesh, if you've been waiting for a Shinto saw rasp at Crimson, now is the time to order it. We have 250 that have just arrived, but we've also been told that it's going to be 2 years before we can get any more. Pretty much. That's what the world is like. Freaking insane. Mark Sausage Fingers has come in with a £10 super chat. Thank you very, very much. Thinking of joining the kit build category, how is the availability of your kits? Our kits are available. There is about a 2 or maybe a 3 week wait at the moment, depending on what you want, but you will have oodles of time with it prior to the final videos, etc. So yeah, basically we're a couple of weeks out from shipping kits that are ordered now. And catching up, we have, yes, we've had staffing issues at Crimson. One of our valuable members has been off for the bulk of the year, meaning that everybody's been scrabbling trying to, you know, catch up with what he was supposed to be doing. And we've since just taken on a new member of staff who's a very talented guitar builder, which is, so he's the first guy's back. We've also got a new guitar builder in, and others currently being talked to. So yeah, it's we're catching up. JS Trucking Guitar says, when did that happen? I watched the whole stream, didn't even see Tanya's reflection that she saw. I'm not going to tell you, but it did, and people noticed and let us know, and it's all good. It's all good. All right now, baby. And sorry, that's a very good point. There is a very well edited version of that video which gives, you know, more than enough details of what happened on that very boring day in any case. Bonehead Guitars, have a good evening or day. He says, I'm off to the shop. Whee! I wonder what you're going to do this year. Alrighty. Creeverai says, buy quality blades. They are a little expensive but worth it. I can recommend the Bosch Professional Hardwood Extra Clean blades. They cost about €4 a blade. I have actually used those and I agree. Arthur Castinguay says, I'm such a 12-year-old at heart. The word exacerbate makes me giggle. Me too, now that you pointed out. Yeah, Joe's, yeah, that's the problem. I just keep thinking about the 500 or so people that did see it. It was closer to 800, but yeah. Weird people on the internet who would spend hours watching guitar builds week on end. Never! That's from Alan Wood, who, yeah. Wills Demo says, Bun, regarding your saw, what if you replaced it with a scroll saw? I have a scroll saw in the corner. I never use it. The last time I used it properly, I have a memory of using it for some random thing at some point in this workshop. But prior to that was the 90-hour build, the complication. And it is entirely possible and does do the job. I mean, also, my scroll saw was given to me by Hegner, but it's like an 800 quid machine. It's more this bandsaw here is worth about 2, if that. So, yeah. Yeah, they do. The big unit says, you missed a super chat, Ben. Ah, I did. The big unit says, I have tomorrow Orf. And he spelled it with an R. I'll be here all day. I'll look forward to it. Yeah. So the plan is that I do a live stream which is finishing the Cyberpunk, stop, have a 20-minute break or a half-hour break or something, cry a little bit, and then while I'm doing that, I'll schedule another live stream that will be the design of the next build. We'll see if that actually happens, but yeah, that's the plan. Discos2 says, move Crimson oop north. I'll work for you. You could move down south. I mean, bunch of southern pansies down here and all that, but you know, we're all right. I self-edited about 14 things that I don't really want to say about anybody just because they're funny. So there we go. I'm growing up slowly. Carl says, hi Ben, are you still looking at hiring people to train and do a course or something to that effect? You mentioned before, as soon as college is done, I'm in. You are talking to Ricky as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware. And yeah, it always depends on where we actually sit at that time. But if plans go according to plan, then yes. SC forwarded that last would you rather email response over to you in WhatsApp. Do I really want to see this? Okay, fair enough. It was a food one. It wasn't the okay. Hold on. Yeah, it's food. And it looks delicious. And now I'm hungry. Thank you very much. Disco Stu came in with another super chat, and crikey, we nearly at £200 for this evening. That's insane. Thank you guys very, very much for your support. Not sure how to phrase this, he says. Imagine a Gibson Firebird. How would you carve the wings so that they are higher at the neck and fall away towards the bridge? I would use a handplane. I would either use a handplane or I would use a router sled So a router sled is your router is sitting on some wood. Those two pieces of, or that piece of wood that your router is on is very wide, and that's sitting on two rails that are in between which is your guitar. So the router is just floating in the air above the guitar. Now those rails don't have to be flat to the table. They could be at an angle, thus creating the angle that you want. You can also put stops in there to stop it from going onto the neck. Video idea: make cool as router sled! Exclamation word. With bearings and everything. All right. Paul Needs says, RE Jigsaw, yeah. Buying a bandsaw on Tuesday. Put it that way. I need to buy myself a new bandsaw too. I really do. Where are we? We're coming up on 2 hours. I need to go to bed. Carl is saying, no, Ricky and college thing died a death. I'm slowly losing the will to live, doing nothing in a kitchen manufacturing place till May. Such is life. Email Ricky back and ask him to bring me up to speed. How's that? And we'll see what happens. But yes, I mean, if you're stuck in college, you're stuck in college, and we'll have to talk. I'm not sure what jobs we currently do have available, but they do pop around and stuff happens. George Davis says, do I have to decide to enter GGBO by April? Can I still enter in May? On the fence due to the video portion. George, you will be able to join up until quite late in the competition. We will close entry for the scratch build portion of the competition 6 to 8 weeks before the final video is due, but the kit and the community build, people will still be able to enter right up until the last, say, 2 weeks before the whole thing comes to an end, because you can feasibly build an instrument in that time frame. So yes, there's no major rush. There's no major rush right now, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you. E.R. Webster. Hoo-hoo. Good question, sir. Best fruit tree wood for a fretboard. Personally, steamed pear. I love steamed pear. It works deliciously. It's not necessarily the most attractive, but it does have an interesting look and a beautiful silky feel to it. It feels like sort of high-end ebony, really. And so yeah, personally, I absolutely prefer that. It is also traditional, i.e. has been used for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years in musical instrument fingerboards. So that one. Cherry comes a close second. Would you class cherry as a fruit tree? You must do. Yeah. And that's enough thinking for me. Okay. HS Guitars has come in with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate this. So speaking of router sleds, I plan to use one to take 6mm off the top of an existing kit body to make room for the poplar burl top. Any advice other than go slow and pray? It's so the real advice would be to make stops so that your sled on which the router is, it's got stops on the outside of the wood that is your the sled. The sled is the movie bit, and that is the bit that the sled runs on. make absolutely certain that your sled section can't fall into the bit where the guitar is, because that would be the absolute worst. Horrific. The next thing is you don't want the guitar to move while you're working on it, so either make sure it's clamped down properly, which is potentially possible if you have a clamp going through the jack socket and maybe the neck pocket, but in reality you want to use the masking tape and super glue trick or something like that to make sure that the body does not move. Good quality sharp router bit, and you'll be sorted. You're away. It's all good. Now, where are we? We've got 5 minutes. Any questions? In about 4 minutes we'll be at the 2 hour mark. We might as well hit that just because. Hold on, where are we? So if you've got any questions, hit me up and we'll go from there. Jake Richards says, typically what type of wood is used for the skunk stripe on a cheap Squire bullet Strat? I have a feature in mind to fix a screw up on my project. It's a maple neck with a dark wood for skunk stripe. Walnut or something like it, but generally walnut in my experience. Now, if it's actually that in the Squires, I don't know, but yeah. The Real Wonky Dog says, would you rather have a great chisel blade and a crap handle, or a bad blade that was a joy to hold? The former. It's all about the blade. It's all about the good steel. And yeah, that's the way it goes. Robert R says, Ben, are you building the new workbench before you build GGBO 22 starts? If so, start building it soon. Yeah, fine. Workbench. The workbench is going to be a collaboration between me and Sam and Chris at Crimson, and Harvey actually. So basically the product development and CNC/laser team, because I think it's going to be something that we could actually potentially be selling kits for if it works. Tornelli Guitar says, Ben, tell Ricky he needs to get over here to Italy and do some snowboarding. I will tell him no such thing. He is far too valuable to me at Crimson headquarters. Yeah. Are you... So Ricky actually has a house over there, and I'm fairly sure he was talking about somebody in GGBO who happened to live basically next door. Is that you? Anyway, it's a small old world. Phoenix Custom Guitars, how are you? Evening from a luthier, formerly known as Rob. Greetings and salutations. Thinking of scarf joint on multi-laminate neck, but I want to reverse the laminates. Would putting a veneer accent between the scarf joints cause any weakness? Do you know what? I thought yes, just initially, that would be the case. And frankly, I was wrong. I've seen students do it with huge amounts, like 10 different veneers in the scarf joint, adding accents and pretty bits and all of that. And it's absolutely fine. I've also seen other luthiers on Instagram and bits and pieces like that doing the same thing. So no, in reality, when you think about it, the glue joint itself adds strength to the neck. Veneer essentially becomes flooded with the glue, and it's actually stronger, I would say, unless you've got a bad joint, which with good veneer is pretty hard to get. So, you know, put enough glue on there, clamp it up nicely in a nice jig, and you're pretty much there. So yeah, go for it. Now, I built a guitar a long time ago now where it had red and blue stained accent veneers going down the neck, and then about halfway or 2/3 of the way up the neck, the red and the blue swapped inside each other, and it changed colors, and yeah, you could do some pretty awesome things with that. That was entirely designed by the client, and yeah, it was really rather cool. SC Guitar says steamed pear to eat. Right. That too. Rob Kennett says, hi Ben, I'm a big fan of EVH. I think, aren't we all? And I've had the dream of building a Frankenstrat from segmented timber, not painted, body. Will the different rates of movement be a problem joined with epoxy? Not if they're joined with epoxy or flooded in epoxy. I have recently saw somebody do exactly that on YouTube. I've got no clue who. I've due to the invitational and wondering who we'd like to invite, I've looked at a lot of channels recently. But yeah, I personally think that that I would get sued if I built one, which really sucks because I'm a business and you know, just is what it is. But that is a guitar that I would really like to make one day. Anyway, Disco Stu says, Chris and that other chap used to make videos for the channel, e.g. a great one on using the stains. Any chance other Crimson guys can do similar? Okay, yes, there are going to be other people. Yes, there are going to be other videos. The whole point of where we're moving at the moment is that I'm building a beautiful new studio at Crimson headquarters, where we will have space for 4 luthiers or more actually, with apprentices and all that jazz. It'll be set up with, you know, cameras and lights and everything. It'll be a dream workshop, much like this is my dream workshop here at the moment. And in that we will be able to film more. The problem I have is that whenever we do a video where I'm not front and center, we really get it in the neck. People really don't like it. And for years I thought that I wanted to do that. I wanted to sort of, you know, sit back and semi-retire. Excuse me, I'm making 144 people yawn now. 143! See? I tell you, every time I mention it, the number goes down. Yeah. There will be videos. I will be working more and more with the other luthiers there, and it'll be a case of I'm on video, we talk about what I want to build, and then the camera will go with somebody who's running something on the CNC machine, or somebody who's drawing something, or maybe the laser cutter, and then it comes back, and then I'll be talking with the luthier that puts it together. So it'll be a whole different kettle of fish. Now, I really do need to do some stain tutorials and bits and pieces like that, and finish tutorials that are just, hey, here's a product we sell, you should buy it because it's great and because this is what you can get with it. Ta-da! I've avoided doing those things because I don't like being overly selly, if you know what I mean. But I also need to be, because hey, it's a business and we've got 20 odd people to pay, etc. But anyway, it is what it is. Okay, I'm running low I'm running low. Ba-ba-da-da-bum-bum. Router sled. Adam Savage just restored a Bailey number 6. Does this mean he's prepping for GGBO? I hope so. And I'm going to check that out just to see what he does. I would love to have Adam Savage in it. Absolutely would love. You guys need to spam everybody who watches Adam, say, hey Adam, you should be in GGBO. Ben wants you there. There we go. If we all ask, maybe he will. Okay. Paul Needs says, I did not. Yawn. David Glynn Guitars worked in the garden this morning, took what was supposed to be a 2-hour nap and ended up napping for 4 hours. I sat down in a 15-minute period in between. So we were naughty and we had takeaway this evening. Went for a long walk, came home, sat down, waiting for the Indian takeaway to open, and within seconds I was underneath the cat. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, darling, you have to go and pick up the food then, because, you know, cat, and my wife sort of fake snored. Anyway, I don't know why I said that, but there we go. Okay. Lisa says she mentioned me on a comment on that video. Fantastic. Running low. I recommend some Colin furs. Colin is great. He must be knackered. He must be knackered. I keep on watching that tunnel build going, dude, I would absolute no. What sort of footwear do you use in the shop? This is from Dusty Dark Horse. My Wolverines finally died, and I'm looking for a new pair that aren't going to kill my feet. I'm still looking. So I went off piste over the last couple of years and bought and had fine. One of our dealers is up in the area of the UK where they hand make all of our shoes. There's like 14 factories in a no distance radius. I go up there, I get factory second handmade shoes, thinking, okay, this shoe goes for £500, I'll buy it for 200, and it'll be the most comfortable thing ever. I'm wearing some Chinis at the moment that are the most comfortable shoes I've ever had, but even so, my feet are now sore because I've been standing still for 2 hours. So frankly, don't do that. Except for the fact that I absolutely know that these shoes, they, Goodyear welted and all that jazz, will last me the rest of my life if I resell them properly and all that. So in the long run, the Samuel Vimes theory on boots and socioeconomic status, etc. Basically, you buy a really good pair of shoes, you pay for them once and they'll last you the rest of your life. You buy cheap boots, you buy a new pair every year, and after 3 or 4 years you've spent the same amount, but because you're poor you can't afford the expensive boots to start with, therefore in the long term you're spending a hell of a lot more on boots than the local toff up the street. I am not sure. We have got some Scruffs boots. They're a Workwear company that we're kitting out the staff at Crimson with. I'm looking forward to experimenting with those. And frankly, for live streams and things like that in here, I'm thinking about just getting some Nikes or New Balances or something like that. Maybe running shoes. I know they don't have steel toe cap or anything, but I also haven't actually dropped anything on my toes for years. So that's a very good question. Who would have thought? Mr. Waffle says I wear flip-flops. Mr. Waffles, please do not wear flip-flops. Okay. £200 shoes, how do you walk? That's from Kiwi Quarters. There we go. Robert R says, for some reason I'm no longer able to make comments in the sections under the YouTube sections anymore. Every time I try to post it fails. Go from, I would clear the cache on your Google, turn everything off and start again and see what happens. That's interesting. Paul Need says, Doc Martens, loathe how they look though. I quite like Doc Martens actually, and yes, I wore Doc Martens for a long time. And if you go to the Doc Marten factory shop, which is in this town, the name of which I've completely forgotten now because I'm tired, you can get them at horrendously cheap prices for what they are, and for what they normally go for. Creever says there are Nikes with steel caps. Cool. Lisa says, no, not a Crimson uniform, please. It's not a uniform per se. There'll be Crimson branded jackets, but everybody will be wearing cool t-shirts and things like that. It's more workwear and good quality shoes and things because we care. JS Trucking Guitar says, Robert R, you need to update the software. Mine was doing that before the update. We've been going for 2 hours, 10 minutes. I said I wasn't going to do it. David Glynn Guitar says, thanks, Bun and the team for all you're doing. Many don't know the effort that goes into running a website, but the whole GGBO must be a logistical nightmare. Doing a great job. Logistical nightmare. I nearly didn't do it again this year. But yeah, absolute. It's going to be worth it. And next year, I'm not going to have to make any changes. So I'm not going to have to actually think about it as much as I did this year. Anyway, look, we are fine. Mica null. Smallest rabbet I can do with a router. Pinstripe inlays, for example. Better by hand. Well, no, it depends. So if you use a Dremel, you can get very, very, very fine ones. You can use a 0.5mm bit if you want to. Just go super slow and take very small amounts. Personally, I would use a scratch stock. And here we go. Sketches in Reebok. Make safety toe shoes with comfort near to running shoes. Good for standing. I will check that out. David Glenn Guitar says, hey, Bun, you need to add the Crimson Kit to the swag. Crimson Kilt to the swag. That's what I misunderstood. Cool. Alrighty. Look, everybody, we're done. I'm going to check out Sketches in Reebok and see if I can get some safety boots. Not that I actually... Anyway, we're good. Thank you, everybody, for your support. I sincerely appreciate it. If you're going to be about tomorrow, I will be starting the live stream on the main channel at 11 a.m. And I am hoping to finish Boba Fret, the guitar, tomorrow morning at some point. Fingers crossed. And later on, I'll be doing a separate live stream following the design of what's going to be an actual one-day build, if I have the energy. We'll see. Anyway, I really appreciate your support. You guys have a fantastic week. Go and make some sawdust. And yeah, if you haven't yet joined GGBO, what's keeping you? Let me know in the comments. See you soon. Yeah, have a good one. How do I end the stream? Aha, it's up there. It says end, end, end. Love you guys. Keep well. Goodbye.